Welcome! This video will review how to create basic forms in Microsoft Access 2013. This video assumes that you can create basic tables in Access and that you understand the difference between bound and unbound controls on a form. By the end of this video, you will be able to describe what an Access form is, understand the difference between Form View, Layout View, and Design View, and be able to create a form using several different methods. Before we begin, let's look at the file that's in front of you. This database has three tables in it: a courses table, an instructors table, and a students table. This database is a simple database that contains information about a school that might eventually be used for a student to register for courses. When we talk about a form is an object in the database. Just as a table holds all the information in the database, a form can be used to enter information into a table. Forms can display single records or multiple records, and it's always tied to an underlying table. So in this example, I'm going to create three forms based on the three tables that you see. We create forms by clicking on the Create tab. So on the Create tab, on the ribbon, we're going to focus on the Forms panel, and we're going to talk about three different ways to create forms. The first way is using the Form Wizard. The Form Wizard is a tool that guides you through creating a form in Access. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and click on the Form Wizard button, and it brings up the dialog box. And so you just have to tell the form what fields you want to use to enter information into. So for this example, we're going to choose the appropriate table, and we'll use the courses table. And we want all the fields. So just go ahead and click the double chevron to move all the fields over to be populated on the form. So we'll click the Next button. And in the next dialog box, you can decide how you want the form elements on the screen. You can have them in columns, you can have it in a table format, datasheet just like the table datasheet view, or even a justified format. We'll go ahead and choose the column-based layout, click Next, and then on this screen you want to go ahead and give the form a unique name, so we'll just call it Courses Form. And then we'll leave the default option so that we can open up the form and start entering information. So we'll click Finish, and you'll see that the form has been created because the form object now appears in the navigation pane. Now that the form is open, let's talk briefly about form views. When you create a form using the Form Wizard, the form opens up in what's called Form View. If you look on the Home tab, all the way to the left, there's a View button. If I expand it, you'll see that there are three different views for forms. The first view, as I said, was Form View, and this view is used to actually enter records into the underlying table. So let's go ahead and show an example of that. We can see that this form is based on the courses table. And just like you have when you have a table open, down here at the bottom of the screen you'll see your record navigation pane. So I can use this tool exactly as I use it with tables to add a new record. So I'm going to go ahead and click the New Blank Record button, and then I can just start filling in information about a course. So we'll just go ahead and pick a section ID, and then when I tab to the next field, that information is automatically saved to the database, just as it is when we're typing information in Table Datasheet View. So the course we're going to enter is Bio 101, and it'll be Biology Level 1. And I know it's 3 credits, so I'm just going to type a 3. And because those fields have already been pre-formatted in the Table Datasheet View, it takes on that formatting on the form. This class will meet on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and it'll meet at 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. And we'll say that the location is in Biology Building, Room 205. And since I don't know the instructor that's going to teach it yet, I'm just going to tab through those two fields and leave them blank. And so now I'm here at the next record. I could add a 14th record. I'm going to go ahead and open up the courses table so that you can see that that Bio 100 course has now been entered. There's all the information, the section ID, the name of the course, all the way through class location. And you can even see that the instructor ID, instructor name has been left blank, so we could enter that information at a later date. So I'm going to close the table, and we're back at the form. So that is what Form View is. So Form View is where you're actually entering information into the table. The next view is Layout View. And you'll see that the form looks similar, but you've noticed that now I have 3 new ribbons. A Form Layout Tools ribbon with 3 tabs on it, a Design tab, an Arrange tab, and a Format tab. And so what happens in the Layout view is that you can modify how the form looks, but you can also see all the records. So I'm going to go ahead and navigate back to the first record. And I can see the records, but I can also change how my form looks. I have a form title called Courses Form. I could just click on that, and I could change Courses Data Entry Form. And I could even widen that so that that title expands across the top. If I wanted to further modify how the form looks, I can open up the Property sheet, which is located on the Design tab, and this allows me to select individual elements or controls on the form and change them. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the first section ID where I'm actually entering information, holding the Shift key down, click on the first one. I can hold the Shift key down and select all the other controls. And then over here in the property sheet, I can set the width to a specified width. Maybe I want to say 5. And when I hit enter, you'll see that all of the controls have the same width. If I go ahead and select maybe just the first field and I want to change maybe the coloring, I can come back over here to the property sheet, and under back color, choosing the ellipses, I can just pick a color. I'll just pick green, and you can see how you can change different properties of the form. The final view is called Design View. And when you switch to that view, and I'll close the property sheet here, you're getting a very detailed view of the form, but you will not see any records. And you will also notice that you now have a new ribbon called the Form Design Tools, and it has similar tools to the layout, and it allows you to modify how the form looks, again at a more detailed level. So at this point I want to save my form, so I'm going to go ahead and click the Save button, and that lets me save the object with the default name that I have. And I'll go ahead and close that. I'll click the Create tab. The second method we use to create forms is we can use what's called the Form button. And what will happen is whatever table I have selected in my navigation pane, and in this case I'm going to select Instructors, when I click the Form button, it automatically generates a table with every single field that is in that table. It automatically generates a form with every field that's in that table. And so then I can go ahead and the form is actually open in Layout View. When you use the Form button, it opens in Layout View. And I can just go ahead and use those tools to modify information about the form, just like I did in the previous example. Now in this case, the form hasn't actually been saved yet because I don't see it in my navigation pane. So I'm going to click my Save icon and save the form. And I'm going to call it Instructors Form. And I'll go ahead and close it. The final method you can use to create a form is the blank form. And there are other tools. We could do form design and whatnot, but this example is just focusing on 3 different methods. So in this case, I'm going to click the blank form button, and that brings up this field list pane over here on the right. And this lets me see all the tables in my database and all the fields within those tables so that I can actually drag and drop them to what's basically a blank canvas. So students is the last table we haven't created a form for. So I can just drag and drop these form fields to the blank form. I can even double click if I want to, and that'll automatically add them. I can even drag and drop, in this case let's say birthday, wherever I see that horizontal placement, I can just drop that field and it places that field in there. When you create a blank form, it opens up in Layout View. And so again, I can use all those tools to modify the design of the form. This button right here, this tool will let me select all the elements on the form, so I could drag them and place them. And I could go along and change widths and heights and colors and so on and so forth. I'm going to go ahead and save this form object. This time your name is a generic name because I used the blank form, so I'm just going to go ahead and give it a unique name of Student Form and click OK. So this video covered what a form object is. We talked about the 3 different views, Form View, Layout View, and Design View, and we talked about 3 different methods for creating forms using the Form Wizard, the Form button, and the Blank Form button. Thank you.